Ahoy, mateys! Welcome to Podcasts of the Caribbean, a podcast covering the world of Pirates of the Caribbean, from the theme parks to the movies and everything in between. My name is Justin Helmer, and I will be your host on this voyage through the Caribbean. It'd be too late to alter course now, mateys. Hello, and welcome back to Podcasts of the Caribbean. This is episode 68, and today we are continuing our countdown celebration for Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest 20th anniversary. On the past two episodes, we talked about some 2000s nostalgia and also the marketing and merchandising campaigns for Dead Man's Chest, so definitely go listen to those if you haven't already. But in today's episode, we're going to dive back into the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction at the Disney parks and talk about the 2006 refurbishment of the ride that added elements from the Pirates films to the attraction. This was by far the biggest refurbishment the attraction had ever received up to that point, and was massively promoted by Disney when it reopened in the summer of 2006. Just look up the guide map for both Disneyland and Walt Disney World from summer 2006, and you will see Jack Sparrow prominently displayed on the front of the map with the words, "The classic attraction returns." This new version of Pirates of the Caribbean was one of the main parts of the Disneyland 50th anniversary celebration, which lasted from May 5th, 2005 to September 30th, 2006, and could be experienced not only at Disneyland, but all of the Disney parks around the world. And of course, the addition of Captain Jack Sparrow was the main thing being promoted about the new version of the attraction, but that was hardly the only thing they added. In addition to Jack Sparrow, there were also other movie-themed elements added, and also a whole bunch of smaller changes to the ride in different areas to bring it up to modern standards of the time. So on this episode, we're going to do a few different things. First, we're going to go through the original press release that announced the changes coming to the attraction, and then after that, we'll move into the actual refurbishment itself and go through what was changed. We actually have a good amount of resources to pull from here, as not only was there a whole featurette dedicated to this refurbishment on the Dead Man's Chest DVD, but I was actually also able to find an old Walt Disney World official podcast episode that talked about it as well. Big shout out to the Wayback Machine. I was able to find and download it off of there, so that is amazing. But finally, we'll also make our way through the ride and go through the changes as you experience them. But let's start with the announcement of the changes. On February 2nd, 2006, Disney released a press release for both Disneyland in California and Walt Disney World in Florida, saying, "First, the theme park attraction inspired the movie. Now the movie is inspiring the attraction." So here we go. This is the press release for this refurbishment. Pirates of the Caribbean, the classic Disney theme park adventure brought to the big screen in Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl, is adding new characters and features from the blockbuster entertainment franchise and debuting when the next adventure begins in Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest. Both the Disneyland Resort in California and Walt Disney World Resort in Florida will close the attraction in March to complete the updates in time for the opening of Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest on July 7th. The attraction will reopen at Disneyland on June 24th and in Florida's Magic Kingdom on July 7th. The attraction will feature the addition of two of Hollywood's most infamous buccaneers, Captain Jack Sparrow and his nemesis Barbossa. Joining the wildest crew that ever sacked the Spanish Main, Captain Jack and Barbossa add an exciting new twist to the attraction's original storyline as they race to be the first to claim a cache of plundered treasure. Successfully adding the popular characters from the Pirates of the Caribbean films with the mythology of our classic attraction is an example of Disney synergy and Walt Disney Imagineering at its finest, said Jay Rizzullo, chairman of Walt Disney Parks and Resorts. These additions will result in an exciting new chapter for the attraction and an unforgettable experience for our guests, giving them another reason to come and be a part of our continuing 50th anniversary celebration. Woven into some of the attraction's most memorable scenes, the rival swashbucklers will be seen interacting with some of the more familiar audio-animatronic buccaneers found inside the ride-through adventure. Also making a guest appearance is the ghostly Davy Jones from the second movie in the series, Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest. But new characters are only the beginning. New special effects will also be added to enhance the Pirates of the Caribbean theme park experience. The creative legacy of Pirates of the Caribbean has come full circle, with the attraction initially inspiring our highly successful film franchise, and now the films inspiring exciting additions to the attraction itself, said Dick Cook, chairman of the Walt Disney Studios. The attraction enhancements capture the same spirit, swashbuckling humor, and action that moviegoers loved in the first Pirates of the Caribbean, which will continue with the highly anticipated new tales this summer and beyond. And then the press release goes on to say, enhancing the classic Pirates attractions with new characters and new technology will ensure their relevance and place in Disney theme parks as timeless adventures, said Tom Fitzgerald, Senior Creative Executive for Walt Disney Imagineering. We're adding a layer of storytelling from the films to the attraction while retaining all the familiar elements that make it vibrant and exciting for every age group. The Pirates of the Caribbean editions are one part of the happiest celebration on Earth, an 18-month salute continuing through 2006 to 50 years of Disney park magic around the globe that started with the opening of Walt Disney's original park, Disneyland, in 1955. And by the way, thanks to wdwmagic.com for archiving that press release. But as I said earlier, this was a huge change to the attraction. Since 1967, when it opened, to 2006, there had been some changes over the years, but nothing as big as this refurbishment. So as it said in the press release, both the Disneyland and Walt Disney World versions of the attraction would close in March 2006. For Disneyland, the attraction would close on March 6th and would not reopen until June 26th. And for Walt Disney World, the refurbishment actually happened in two phases. It first closed on March 1st and then reopened a month later on April 1st with no noticeable changes. As to what was changed during that month, I would assume it was more mechanical and operational changes that are not noticeable to guests. But the attraction would close again a month later on May 1st to begin the big refurbishment changes and would reopen on July 7th to coincide with the release of Dead Man's Chest. So let's move on to what was actually changed during this refurbishment. The idea for the revamp of the attraction originated as part of the Disneyland 50th anniversary celebration, where the Disney Imagineers went in and updated different parts of classic attractions at the park. Pirates of the Caribbean was among those rides that was due for some updates, and when they started going through the process of identifying what needed to be updated or changed, they realized this was the perfect opportunity to weave the world of the Pirates films together with the Pirates attraction. But what is very interesting is that this refurbishment for Pirates of the Caribbean was in the works even before The Curse of the Black Pearl released, according to Kathy Rogers, who was the senior show producer for the project. Now, even though the refurb was planned in 2003, that doesn't mean they were immediately going to be adding the movie characters into the attraction. But with the success of Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl, that changed the original plans. The Imagineers realized that many kids coming to the parks after the release of the film were confused by the fact they didn't see any characters they recognized in the attraction. More and more people were becoming far more familiar with the characters from the film than the characters in the attraction. So as a part of this revamp, the Disney Imagineers decided to add in characters from the Pirates films to the attraction. The changes were originally only planned for Disneyland, since it was being done for the 50th anniversary of that park, but they quickly decided to also update the attraction at Walt Disney World as well. But they knew they didn't want to completely change the attraction into something new, so they opted to add the movie characters into different scenes throughout the ride, preserving the original experience. And first of all, the biggest change was, of course, the addition of the character of Captain Jack Sparrow. In addition to Jack, Hector Barbossa and Davy Jones would also be added in different parts of the ride. So let's start with Jack. The character actually appears 3 times throughout the attraction, so there were 3 different Jack Sparrow animatronics produced. Johnny Depp actually worked closely with the Imagineers to get the movement and essence of the character correct, and Johnny even recorded his own dialogue for the Jack Sparrow animatronic at the end of the ride in the new treasure room scene. Barbossa would also get his own animatronic and was of course voiced by Jeffrey Rush for the attraction. And if you watch the DVD featurette about this refurbishment, you can actually see Jeffrey Rush seeing the animatronic head for Barbossa for the first time. It's a really cool little moment. But what's very cool about the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction is that all the characters' facial molds were all created the same way, with the same process. They were first sculpted and then cast into a rubber skin material. This was done all the way back in the mid-1960s when the attraction was originally in development. And for these new Jack Sparrow and Barbossa animatronics, they actually performed the same exact process to make the characters blend in with the rest of the pirates on the attraction. So the head molds were first sculpted to resemble the actors, and you can actually also see this being done in the featurette on the Dead Man's Chest DVD. In that featurette, it shows Valerie Edwards, who was director and chief of sculpture for 2 decades at Walt Disney Imagineering, and you can see her working on the head sculpt for Jack Sparrow. And after the sculpt was done, they would then create a mold of that and eventually end up with a rubber-like skin material that would then be pulled on top of the mechanical head of the animatronic. And something they also had to consider is the position in which Jack sits in the chair you see him in at the end of the ride. They actually tested the pose with real people sitting in the chair doing the actions, and then used that guide to fabricate the shells that encase the animatronic skeleton. This was all done to make the figure look as believable as possible when you're passing by it in the ride. But in addition to Jack and Barbossa, one other movie character was also added into the ride, and that of course was Davy Jones. But unlike Jack and Barbossa, Davy Jones would not receive an animatronic, at least not back in 2006. However, if you go to Shanghai Disneyland now, their Pirates of the Caribbean attraction, which is named Battle for the Sunken Treasure, does actually have a Davy Jones animatronic, and it is really, really cool if you have not seen it. Definitely look up a video of it on YouTube. But anyway, for this refurb, Davy Jones would appear in the ride through a projection effect, and just like Johnny Depp and Jeffrey Rush voiced their respective characters in the ride, so would Bill Nye. This projection effect would appear on top of another effect, with this one being a mist wall that simulates passing through a waterfall. It honestly was a fantastic effect, and I'm very sad that it's no longer a part of the ride nowadays. It was updated in 2011 to also include Blackbeard from On Stranger Tides, and Ian McShane did the dialogue for that as well. And I believe a few years after that, they began to rotate between Davy Jones and Blackbeard, but unfortunately now that effect is completely gone. But back in this version of the attraction, Davy Jones would show up on this mist waterfall and say some foreboding lines as the boat passed through, and it served as a transition point from the skeleton cave scenes of the ride to the scenes with the living pirates. But the changes were not limited to just the addition of the movie characters. While that was the biggest and most remembered part of this refurbishment, it actually changed a lot more throughout the attraction. But we'll start with some things that are exclusive to the Disneyland version of the attraction, and that was the addition of a movie prop from The Curse of the Black Pearl. In the skeleton treasure room scene at the beginning of the ride, the Imagineers added the screen-used chest of Aztec gold in a small vignette on the right side of the scene. Yes, it is actually the actual chest that was used during production of the film. Aside from that, the actual treasure in the scene was refreshed, and more treasure was added to make it look like a bigger treasure hoard. And there's another Easter egg prop to find in the Disneyland version of the ride, as they also added Elizabeth Swann's wedding dress from Dead Man's Chest in the background of the skeleton bar scene. But all of the other changes were done to both Disneyland and Walt Disney World's version of Pirates of the Caribbean. One of the most important changes was actually the digitization of all of the audio tracks in the attraction. This improved the quality of the audio and helped make the ride a much more immersive experience. The lighting throughout the attraction was also tweaked and changed, and new special effects were added as well. And something I really appreciate this refurbishment adding is the ambient version of Yo-Ho, A Pirate's Life for Me that plays through the Dead Man's Grotto portion of the ride. It enhances the atmosphere so much, and I just love that version of the song. It's so calming, but also really foreboding at the same time, and it just fits the vibe of the skeleton scenes perfectly. And there was also another update to the scene with the pooped pirate. If you're unaware, the pooped pirate is the guy who sits on the barrel and is mostly gloating the whole time. Over the years, he's been changed to better update the attraction to modern standards. Originally, he sat on the barrel and was looking for a young woman who was hiding in the barrel behind him, but then in the 1990s, he was changed to the gluttonous pirate, where he was now happily eating all the food the pirates had stolen from the town. Instead of a woman in the barrel behind him, it was changed to be a cat. But with this refurbishment in 2006, the scene was updated again to add in Jack Sparrow to that scene. Now, Jack is the person peeking out of the barrel, and the pooped pirate is holding a treasure map and the key to the town treasure room. In addition to the pooped pirate changes, the turntables, where the women and pirates were chasing each other, were updated again after also being changed in the 90s. So now those pirates were shown being chased by the women as they tried to get away with treasure and other sorts of food. But that is all the things that were added or changed in this refurbishment of the Pirates attraction. So what was the new story of the ride with these new additions of Jack and Barbossa? To quote Josh M. Gibbs, well, I'll tell you. The original story of the live pirate portion of the ride, of course, revolves around the pirates pillaging the town of Puerto Dorado and looking for the town treasure. And while that story still exists in the post-2006 version, it was modified and changed to, of course, include Jack Sparrow and Hector Barbossa into the mix. For starters, Barbossa took the place of the original pirate captain that stood aboard the Wicked Wench pirate ship in the ride. Most of the Barbossa dialogue that Geoffrey Rush recorded for the attraction is nearly identical to the original pirate captain's dialogue. And what's really cool about that is Barbossa's dialogue in the first film echoes the pirate captain's dialogue in the ride, so now having Barbossa say those lines again in the ride is also a really cool full circle moment. But what you hear when you first enter the scene is Barbossa saying the line, "Run up your white flag and bring me Captain Jack Sparrow." And the new version of the story has the pirates not only looking for the treasure, but also trying to find Jack Sparrow. This is also clearly apparent in the scene where the pirates are dunking the mayor into the well. The pirate asks the mayor where Jack Sparrow is hiding. This is also the scene where you first encounter Jack on the ride. You'll find him hiding nearby behind some mannequins, observing the pirates dunking the mayor into the well. He ducks out to look and then retreats back into cover. Jack, of course, while he's trying to evade the pirates, is also trying to find the town treasure. And to do that, he has to first get the key. But from the mayor dunking scene onward, the ride was essentially unchanged until we reach the scene with the pooped pirate. As I said earlier, the pooped pirate has the map and the key to the treasure room, and this is where we see Jack for the second time in the attraction as he's hiding in the barrel behind the pooped pirate. You'll see that Jack is looking at the map in the pooped pirate's hand when he shoots up out of the barrel, and somehow he's able to get the key from him, although it's never actually explained how he does so. Then the ride continues on as normal, and we don't see Jack Sparrow again until the very end of the ride. We eventually find the town treasure room, and we see Jack sitting in a chair as he sings "Yo-Ho, A Pirate's Life for Me." He is enjoying his newfound riches, and it's a very fun conclusion to the new version of the attraction. So that was the updated story of the ride with this refurbishment. It was kept mostly the same, but just weaved in the additions of Jack and Barbossa, and that extra layer of the pirates also looking for Jack in addition to the town treasure. And as I said at the start of the episode, the attraction reopened at both Disneyland and Walt Disney World in time for the release of Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest on July 7th. It was a major selling point for the year of 2006 at the parks, and was even promoted through a sweepstakes contest run through McDonald's. If you listen to the last episode where I covered the Dead Man's Chest marketing and merchandising campaigns, you may remember that McDonald's ran a sweepstakes contest called the Search for the Golden Treasure Happy Meal game. This contest had 25 winners who ended up receiving a trip for 4 to either Walt Disney World or Disneyland to ride the new version of the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction. And Pirates of the Caribbean was also featured on the guide map for both parks during summer 2006 to promote the reopening of the ride. But this refurbishment was monumental, as it was the first instance of a theme park attraction inspiring a movie, which would then go on to inspire the attraction it was based on. A really full circle moment for the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise as a whole, and this is something that few Disney IPs have ever achieved. And Pirates of the Caribbean is not the only movie to have movie-based additions added into the ride, as Haunted Mansion has had some updates for the new movie a few years ago, and Jungle Cruise also added the costumes of Frank Wolf and Lily Houghton into the queue of the attraction. But Pirates of the Caribbean is unique in that it has characters from the movies in the attraction now. You can't go on Jungle Cruise and find an animatronic of Frank Wolf or Lily Houghton, and you can't go on Haunted Mansion and find animatronics of any of those characters from the film. So Pirates of the Caribbean really is unique in that sense, is that it was the only theme park movie that's come out in the past 2 decades that has been successful enough to then bring those characters into the ride and have it be received well. But it just goes to show the power the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise held at the time, and how it was dominating the world of pop culture throughout all sorts of mediums. But with that about does it for this episode on the 2006 refurbishment of the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction. I hope you enjoyed this, as I had a really fun time delving into everything that was changed and updated during this refurbishment. It was the biggest refurbishment the attraction has ever received in the almost 40 years of its existence at that point, and a major push on Disney's part to increase excitement for Dead Man's Chest. So thank you all for listening to this episode, and thank you if you've been kind enough to leave a rating or review wherever you're listening. Our countdown celebration for Dead Man's Chest 20th anniversary is not done yet, and we're continuing the excitement for the next 2 weeks as we celebrate the 20th anniversary of this incredible movie and the hype of the year of 2006. So I will see you all back here next week for another exciting episode, but for now, take care. Podcast of the Caribbean is in no way affiliated with Disney. If you want to send me an email or a question, send it over to podcastofthecaribbean@gmail.com. You can also follow this podcast on Instagram, Threads, and Facebook at Podcast of the Caribbean, and over on Twitter/X and Bluesky at PodcastPOTC. I post fun content over there, so make sure to check those platforms out. You can also buy merchandise for the podcast over on TeePublic and Dashery, and also check out the website at podcastofthecaribbean.com. Be sure to keep a weather eye on the horizon, and always remember, dead men tell no tales.